Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us to learn today, even if we can't be in the same room. So for today's program, we will be talking about dream habitats. My name is Sarah Doxson, and I am an environmental educator with Bird Conservancy of the Rockies. So my job is to help people learn all about the world around us, and especially birds. And you might have guessed from our name, Bird Conservancy, that we especially love birds. We love all animals and plants and everything, but birds are really our favorite. So my job, like I said at Bird Conservancy, is to help people learn about the world around us. But other people that work with me, they are out in the field studying real birds, tracking their populations and things like that. We also have people that are working with farmers and ranchers who own land to make sure that their land and water stays healthy. And then, of course, like I said, getting to talk to people just like you and teaching about why birds are so cool. So today you will need a paper, a pen or a pencil. If you have crayons, markers, or colored pencils, that would be awesome. And of course, your imagination. And if you need a few minutes to go and get those things, just hit pause and then come back whenever you're ready. So first, let's figure out what a habitat is. So I mentioned that just a minute ago. We said Bird Conservancy works to conserve birds and their habitat. So to conserve means to help save or protect. So you might have heard this word before. What is a habitat? So a habitat is the place where an organism lives. Everything, including us, needs a proper habitat in order to survive. And to have a healthy habitat, we need four main things. So think about yourself. What kinds of things do you need to be able to survive? So you can think about these. If you're able to, type them in a chat box, or if you're in the classroom, go ahead and raise your hand. What four things do we need to survive? So when I think about what I need to survive, the first thing I think of is food. What food have you eaten today? The next thing that comes to mind is water. I love to drink lots of water every day. It helps make me feel really good and healthy. All animals and plants need water too. We also need a place to live, right? We need shelter if there's a rainstorm or if it's really hot outside. We need a shelter where we can be safe. And birds might use a tree or a bush or a nest. And then the last thing we need is space. So we need lots of space to be able to roam around in. So imagine if I put 100 puppies in your bedroom. That might be quite a bit of fun for a little bit. But eventually, you would need a lot more space. You and all those puppies would need lots of space to run around to feel healthy and happy. So all of these things, as long as we have these things, that makes up where we live. That makes up our habitat. And to help me remember these, I like to add actions to them. So for food, you can rub your belly like you're hungry. For water, you can pretend like you're taking a drink. For shelter, you can hold your hands over your head like a roof. And then for space, you can wave your arms around. Nice job. So there are lots and lots of different kinds of habitats all over the world. And here we can see three different kinds. We have a prairie, a forest, and an ocean. Now, do you think an animal that lives in a forest habitat could survive in the ocean? No way, right? What about a plant that lives in a prairie? Could it survive in a forest? That might be more likely, but still probably not. The habitat isn't quite right for what it needs to survive. So animals and plants have special things about them that help them to survive in their specific habitat, and we call these adaptations. Adaptations. So take a minute to think about your favorite animal. What kind of habitat does it live in? Can you think about what it eats and where it gets water? What does it use for shelter? And does it need a lot of space or just a little? And again, you can just think about this in your brain or type it in the chat box or raise your hand if you're in the classroom. Okay, so we are going to practice. We're going to look at a few examples to help us practice finding the different parts of a healthy habitat. So here we see a bird that you might have seen in your neighborhood. This is an American robin. So let's think about what they need. What kind of food do they eat? So robins love to eat invertebrates like spiders and worms. They also like to eat fruit. They can find water in puddles or bird baths. They take shelter in trees and bushes. And their space is all around. They need quite a bit of space so that they can search for food and fly around. So robins need a forest habitat, but they can also live where a lot of us do, maybe in or near cities. So we could call that an urban habitat. So robins can be kind of flexible with where they're living. Let's see what's next. Ooh, this is a really cool fish called a rainbow trout. Have you ever gone fishing? I think it's pretty fun. So this fish eats insects, even other fish sometimes. It gets its water from what's swimming in. It's swimming in water, so it's all around it. It takes shelter in plants that are in the water. So if it needs to hide or rest, it will go kind of weave its way into grasses and other plants that are in the water, which is pretty cool. And then its space, of course, is all around too. These fish need quite a bit of space too, just like that robin, so it can get enough food and feel comfortable. So we know that this fish lives in water, but do you think it could live in salt water, like an ocean? Nope, not this fish. There are some kinds of trout that can, but this trout needs fresh water, so it will live in a river or a lake habitat. All right, this cute little guy is a black-tailed prairie dog. And just like the last two animals we saw, they live right here in Colorado. So you might have seen them before, or you might have seen the big mounds of dirt they make when they dig their burrows. Does this remind you of any other animal you might have seen in your neighborhood? So believe it or not, prairie dogs are actually related to squirrels. So the next time you see a squirrel, you can say, hey, I know your cousin, the black-tailed prairie dog. So let's see, these little guys eat grasses mostly. Sometimes they'll eat insects. What about water? So this one is kind of tricky. Prairie dogs actually get all the water they need from their food. If they come across water, they can drink it, and they will, but grasses and plants have a lot of water in them, so they get most of the water they need right from their food, which is pretty convenient. Like I mentioned, for shelter, they dig these really cool underground burrows. And then they need a lot of space too. And they find enough space and all of these other things in the prairie. So we have a lot of prairie habitat right here in Colorado. That's why prairie dogs love it here. Okay, so now it's your turn. We've had some practice figuring out different kinds of habitats, the food, water, shelter, and space that animals need to survive. So your challenge is to think of an animal and create its dream habitat. So this could be a real animal, or you could make one up in your imagination. So for example, maybe I want to make a unicorn fish. So this unicorn fish, its habitat is a rainbow river. And in this rainbow river, there are bugs that taste like candy. There's colorful water all around. And there's actually clouds in the river so it can rest and be safe. And of course, lots of space to swim and jump around. So that's a really silly example, but if you want to use your imagination and go wild, you can absolutely do that. But if you want to think of an animal that you know of and try to think of what its real habitat is, then you can absolutely do that too. Just make sure to include all parts. So think about what it's going to eat, where it's going to get water, what kind of shelter it needs, and how much space. Does it need a lot, or does it need just a little? So go ahead and push pause and maybe take 5 or 10 minutes to complete your dream habitat. If you need more time, that is absolutely okay too. And when you're all done, come back and push play. Have fun. All right. I bet all of your dream habitats are just fantastic, and I would love to live in any of them. I wish I could see them. So thank you all so much for learning with us today. If you have any questions, you can always ask a grown-up to help you research them. Maybe you can find a really cool book, or you can research online. You can always reach out to us at Bird Conservancy as well. Before we go though, I have one last challenge for you. So your challenge is to share what you learned today with maybe your parents or a friend or even your pet. Then see if you can go find different birds or other animals in your neighborhood and figure out what their adaptations are. Where do they get their food, their water? What do they use for shelter? How much space do they need? All right, so thank you again. Be sure to keep in touch with us here at Bird Conservancy. You can find other cool programs that we're doing on our Facebook page and our website. And like I said, please email us at education@birdconservancy.org if you have any other questions. Have a wonderful day and keep looking for birds.